entiendo, hermanos latinoamericanos. No entiendo por qué no nos quieren. En vez de odiarnos, ¿por qué no nos miran y aprenden? ¡Aprendan! Si ya intuyen que hay algo que no entienden del fútbol y terminan contratando técnicos argentinos para ser competitivos, terminan nacionalizando argentinos, jugadores de cualquier parte del mundo para armar un plantel, ya se dieron cuenta que no están a la altura. Pero en vez de aceptarlo, cerrar el orto y aprender del más grande, ¿no? ¿Qué hacen? Le regalan la copa. Encima, son tan infantiles tus argumentos, mexicano bizarro, que empezás a gritar, argentino, no tenés plata, sos pobre, no tenés para comer, no tenés para comer. Ganamos el mundial, argentino, compraste la copa. ¿Con qué plata la compré, retrasado? No soy pobre y un endeudado y muerto de hambre. ¿Con qué?
Latas de atún, pajas y España, subido a la Torre Blanca. Todo se ve tan alto, soy un pigmeo, pero me hackeo. Soy el enano marra, el enano marra, el enano marra. Me gusta el atún, las pajas y España. Soy el enano marra, el enano marra. Se terminó la más chanta que hay. Es un monian, el economista más chanta que hay. Es un monian, el economista más chanta que hay. Es un monian, el economista más chanta que hay.
La democracia de Rusia no es una democracia, siempre va a ganar Putin. Por más que no se presente, gana Putin igual. Las cuestiones políticas rusas ya no pasan por la democracia o lo que diga el pueblo, pasan por esferas de poder mucho más grandes. Los oligarcas, las fuerzas armadas, los servicios de inteligencia, todo eso se ponen de acuerdo de quién va a ser el próximo líder. Cuando Putin sea viejo y capaz ya no sirva, ni siquiera esperan a que se mueren. Cuando lo vean que el chabón medio como que temblequea, viste, como que se pone duditativo, como que ya no tiene tanta cintura política, lo cortan a la mierda. No importa si es Putin, si es Stalin, si es Nikita Khrushchev, ellos siempre manejaron así las cosas.
Y un día llegó vocero, el león lo eligió. Vocero es el mejor video gamer, toma cualquier hater. En su cabeza es un dios, vocero, pero en su cabeza tiene alto pienso. Vocero, dice ser del pueblo, pero cobra terrible sueldo. Con la tuya contribuyente, es el vocero domador. Vocero, aunque los nómadas sean todos nabos. Vocero, aunque nombre a mi hermano sin contarme la mano. Vocero, el león lo eligió. Vocero, es el mejor video que toma cualquier hater. En su cabeza es un dios, vocero, pero en su cabeza tiene alto pienso. Vocero, dice ser del pueblo, pero cobra terrible sueldo. Con la tuya contribuyente, es el vocero domador. Vocero, aunque los domados sean todos nabos. Vocero, aunque nombre a mi hermano sin contarme la mano. Vocero.
Soy Cristina, también me dicen Ceseca.
Hola guachines, ¿cómo andan Richis? Bienvenidos a una nueva noche del Pela. Hoy les traigo un tema. Encontré algo espectacular, Richis. Me iba a vestir tipo Matrix, iba a hacer toda una pelotudez y después dije, no encuentro los anteojos, no soy rebord. Y cuando actúo lo hago en serio, no voy a hacer esta pelotudez. Pero no, en realidad no lo hice porque no encontraba los anteojos negros, guachín. Pero hoy, guachines, vamos a les voy a pasar algo espectacular. Hace un rato, ahí Jordi me estaba preguntando para hacer el pase hoy. Y ahí tuve que arrancar antes porque tengo que ir a cenar con mi mujer y me había olvidado, como para variar. No puedo seguir, boludo, toda la gente y las distintas cosas que hay que hacer con distintas personas y demás. Me olvido, boludo, me olvido. Pero bueno, mañana seguro lo vamos a hacer. Ahí vi que ya estaba por el chat, así que debe haber cortado justo. Entonces me dice, che, Pela, ¿vas a aprender? Y bueno, capaz prendo en Twitch, sí, capaz que hago alguna cosa, no la cocina del Pela, sino lo de Christoph. Digo, pero si encuentro algo, capaz que prendo en YouTube, ¿no? Y de golpe estaba volviendo en YouTube, después que había visto el material que grabé el sábado para unos pibes de acá que estaban haciendo un videoclip. Y encuentro un tema de una entrevista, un guachín, que se llama Danny Goller. No Danny Glover, Danny Goller. Dice que que había hecho algún tipo de experimento, que no sé qué, que había descubierto que pudo probar que vemos en una simulación. Y básicamente el chabón empieza, que dice, sí, Pela me amenazó el Telefe con bajarme el stream. Y dice, me siento amenazado por Telefe, estoy temblando en casa de miedo, estoy calzado por las dudas. Y bueno, bienvenido a mi mundo, guachín. Todo el tiempo me está amenazando Telefe. Son así de trolos. Y este guachín dice que el chabón es un director de cine, actor, viste, así, de ese tipo, ¿no? Como de mi palo, pone la realización audiovisual, no muy conocido. Y el chabón muy loquito de lo que es el DMT y esas experiencias, ¿no? Con ayahuasca, ¿no? Pero que son derivados del DMT, que es esta droga que es como que de alguna manera te transporta o hace que salgas de tu cuerpo y que pases a una dimensión paralela o otro tipo de realidad, ¿no? A la que podemos acceder a través de, no sé, la conciencia o lo que sea, pero es como que si esta droga, que en realidad también se produce en el cuerpo, y lo que dicen por ahora, lo que leí de los científicos que lo están estudiando, es que se produce en mucha cantidad en dos momentos, cuando naces y cuando morís. Entonces algunos teorizan que este componente, esta molécula, que la denominaron la molécula, no sé si de Dios, no me acuerdo si una cosa así, dimetiltriotamina o algo así, como dice Frankie, es como una especie de puerta de acceso para que la conciencia entre al cuerpo cuando nacemos y que la conciencia salga del cuerpo cuando morimos. Y bueno, esto, digamos, es como un tema que viene hace rato, ¿no? Hace rato. Yo la primera vez que lo descubrí fue allá por el 2010, 2011. Nunca igual lo probé ni nada, ¿no? Me da un toque de miedo. Pero me gustaría tener huevos como para hacerlo. A lo mejor algún día lo hago. Pero en ese momento con mi amigo Willy, el de los drones, que yo les conté alguna vez y le hice una entrevista acá también, que es el guachín, el primer guachín que empezó a laburar con drones para filmar acá en Argentina. Bueno, le había agarrado la locura. Él es un chabón alto, mide como 2 metros, siempre le gustó andar en moto. El chabón vivió muchos años en Yanquilandia, como mitad de su vida la vivió allá y acá. Porque el padre era Neuquén, laburaba como para una empresa de petróleo, se lo mandaron a Estados Unidos y qué sé yo. Y el chabón siempre en moto, viste, por Yanquilandia, muy hippie, viste, de esa onda. También se dedica al audiovisual, filmó acá Highlander. En Estados Unidos estuvo como productor, viste, y como medio como, creo que notero, algo así, siguiendo a la NBA, no creo que los Houston Rockets, porque él es de Houston. Y el chabón en un momento se le había dado que renunció a su laburo, estaba laburando en American Express el chabón, renunció a su laburo y... se los muestro. No, igual no viene al caso que se los muestre. Renunció a su laburo, que labura en American Express, ganando bien y qué sé yo, y el chabón flasheó que se iba a correr el Dakar a la par del Dakar que se corría acá en Argentina en 2010 y que lo iba a filmar, iba a hacer un documental y que lo iba a vender y que iba a volver a laburar en lo audiovisual porque bueno, hacía mucho que no hacía nada, estaba laburando ahí en Amex como red corporativo y qué sé yo. Entonces bueno, me dice, che boludo, mirá, tengo todo este material, tengo que editarlo y no sé qué. Yo justo me había mudado solo, había con una amiga invertido en una isla de edición y es como el primer proyecto que hacemos. Y en eso mismo después sale otro laburo que era una publicidad que se llamaba Fútbol, Pizzas y Empanadas, que era una publicidad que hacía como la asociación de pizzerías y empanaderías de la capital federal o de la ciudad para el Mundial. También creo que fue todo para ese año. Y en ese momento, bueno, yo recién me había mudado, estaba corto de guita y que yo no tenía tantos laburos. Entonces es como que pongo mi casa como en una habitación, tenía la de la edición para que vengan a editarlo ahí y lo que era el living que yo lo usen como de oficina de producción y yo le daba también servicio, viste, qué sé yo. Y también editaba y demás. Y los guachines que hacían la producción tenían, ¿se acuerdan cuando les hablé de ese documental que se llama Wild Wild Country? De ese chabón que sí, se llama Hoyo, le decían, como su nombre artístico, supongo, que era este hindú que había desarrollado como esta cosa medio como de yoga con espiritualidad, pero capitalista, y que estaba bien tener espiritualidad, garchar y que te gusten las cosas lindas y tener plata. Hizo todo un movimiento que terminó llegando a Estados Unidos, creo que a Oregon, en donde se mudaron al lado de un pueblito, quisieron como comprar todo, alto bardo y no sé qué. Y tenían, en un momento en el documental dicen, estos chabones tienen como la mirada, ¿no? Como the look. Y estos productores tenían como en la mirada, ¿viste? Había algo en la mirada de los chabones que tenían como una relajación extrema, como otra mirada que a mí me ponía incómodo. Entonces los chabones, bueno, me cuentan que nada, que habían, no me acuerdo, hablando de cualquier cosa, si fumando, qué sé yo, que cada tanto venía como un médico y su mujer de Brasil, que habían experimentado, que se habían dedicado toda la vida con esto de la ayahuasca, y que venían a la Argentina, bueno, te cobraban, hacían como este ritual de ayahuasca, te llevaban, porque la mujer era psicóloga y él era médico, y que también lo hacían en Brasil, que ellos habían ido allá y acá, y que era una experiencia que te cambiaba la vida y demás, y qué sé yo. Y bueno, ahí me explican que la ayahuasca era, digamos, un brebaje, que es como ahí algo medio autóctono de las tribus de la Amazonia, que básicamente mezcla dos compuestos. Uno que es esta molécula del DMT con otra planta que juntos hacen que puedas digerir el DMT. Porque si vos el DMT es como que lo ingerís solo, no te produce nada, lo tenés que fumar. En cambio, con esto es como que lo podés ingerir. Y es como un ritual de varias horas, en donde es como que vos te tenés que preparar unas semanas antes, no tenés que comer carne, vas, tomás esto, vomitás, la pasás mal, vomitás, la pasás mal y no sé qué, bla, bla. Y la cuestión que, bueno, tenés algún tipo de viaje, entendimiento sobre vos mismo, ¿no? Como que te conectás con algún entendimiento superior, alguna inteligencia superior, que te da como máximas de la vida y de tu vida. Es como una experiencia muy, muy personal también. Y si venís con algún trauma, con algo que no podés como destrabar de tu vida, te ayuda a tener como algún tipo de breakthrough, ¿no? Y bueno, yo en ese momento de mi vida estaba bastante como en un periodo como de transición, venía de tener restaurante, había sido casi 10 años de mucha esclavitud, donde no había tenido prácticamente vida social porque estaba todo el día metido ahí o agarrando un laburo para bancar en parte el restaurante, del audiovisual que hacía yo, que les conté que laburé en el canal 9 o en distintas produce. Y bueno, y ahí había hecho un corte y es como que, bueno, me estaba dedicando full, más que a producir o a editar, que no tenía tantas ganas, quería realizar. Entonces, bueno, es como que me llamó la atención todo eso. Bueno, después terminé el coso, quedé ahí que lo iba a hacer y después no me animé. Pero bueno, fue la primera vez que escuché este tema y después por los podcasts de Joe Rogan, que empezaron a hablar de esto, del tema que lleva científicos, que ahora lo están estudiando en distintas universidades de Estados Unidos, porque como ahora se está experimentando con hongos en pacientes que tienen, no sé, estrés postraumático o que tienen algún trauma severo y que les ayuda como a sanar, y es como que de alguna manera destraban cosas del inconsciente y bueno, y lo están usando para terapias alternativas que mezclan psicoanálisis con este tipo de consumos, digamos, en pequeñas dosis. Lo mismo ya hacían en los 60 con el LSD. Había algunos terapeutas que eran psiquiatras o psicoanalistas que trabajaban con LSD porque es que los llevaba a estados de conciencia en donde era más fácil como de trabajar, ¿no? Que el paciente muchas veces tiene un montón de resistencias a tratar ciertos temas y de esa manera lo podían hacer de una manera más efectiva. Y bueno, la cuestión que hoy llego con este guachín, Danny Goller, que dice que el chabón, ¿no?, que empezó a consumir esto y empezó a decir, che, esto es muy loco, es muy parecido. ¿Cómo puedo confirmar que esto es parte de la realidad o es toda una invención mía? De cualquiera, ¿no? Entonces empezó a pensar cómo podía filmar, cómo podía hacer algo documental de cómo demostrar que la realidad que vive la gente que toma DMT, que es real, o que es algo de la realidad, o que no es una construcción, que sino que pasan de realmente a otro plano. Y bueno, y el chabón pensando y durante años, drogándose con eso y demás, llega, digamos, que hizo un documental que va a salir de ahora en breve, que lo vamos a ver juntos. Primero vamos a ver todo esto que les cuento, que ahora lo vamos a contar él y qué sé yo. Y... Ay, boludo, mientras hablaba, quería poner este tema y me olvidé. Lo dejo ahí bajito. Y... ¿Qué le estaba diciendo? Entonces, bueno, la cuestión que este chabón encontró como una forma de que cuando estás drogado con este DMT, hicieron un experimento que todos están empezando como a ver como un código sobre las cosas, como si fuera Matrix. Entonces el chabón dice que probó que vivimos en la Matrix, guachines. Y ahora sin más, vamos a ir primero a un breve... a una breve intro para que me baneen el video, básicamente, ¿no?
Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave, Neo.
Dale,
Like
si
everyone
necesitas
else,
el
you were born
subtítulo
into
para
bondage,
Matrix,
born
es un
into
movie
a
clip,
prison
está
that
en
you
YouTube,
cannot
son 2
smell or
minutos.
taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Y antes que nos corten el stream, guachín, vamos a ir directamente a una mezcla. Es una mezcla de Keanu Reeves, Jesús y Messi, el guachín. Y vamos a empezar por acá, que esto es lo mismo que vi yo. Quiero que tengan como el mismo proceso que tuve yo. Acá están subtítulos. Ahora que voy a poner los subtítulos más grandes para lo de boquita. Ahí está, 400. Y auto translated en... Vamos a ponerlo en español. Spanish. Acá está Spanish. Bienvenidos a la locura, guachines.
You have basically found a tear in the fabric of reality. You found a way under the map, so as people that play video games would say.
I get that's a really good way of putting it. Yeah.
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 Can you, first of all, explain exactly what you discovered and how you discovered it, and then we'll kind of like we'll sum that up. Then we'll like start from the beginning,
Sure,
and then go through like a linear fashion of how this all happened.
Okay. So in short, I basically discovered that there is a way. There's this phenomena on DMT that a lot of people experiencing similar things. Emphasis on similar, like very similar, but similar. And I asked, because I've done it so many times, I asked myself, okay, wait a second. I don't think there's any possibility at this point for me to believe that this is somehow mind-made, whatever we call mind-made, right? And then I asked myself, okay, well, if the space is real, is there anything we can do to prove that it's real? And one of the first things that came to mind is like, well, if we can find something that is exactly the same in that.
Para los que acaban de entrar, DMT es una molécula que se genera en el cuerpo, en otras plantas y demás, que hace rato que están experimentando con esto, y es como que la gente cuando lo fuma o tiene una experiencia con la ayahuasca, digamos que es un ritual antiguo en la Amazonia, es como si su conciencia viajara a otra realidad. Y tienen experiencia donde charlan con otros seres y ven otro tipo de cosas y demás. Y este chabón dice que encontró un experimento donde puede probar, ¿no? Como que nuestra realidad en realidad es una simulación.
That space for everybody. That puts us in a good place to start talking about it.
Like a repeatable experiment.
Well, repeatable experiment would be the thing that would show you that it's the same. I'm saying, yeah, can we find that one thing in some way that is the same?
Y dicen que esta molécula se libera en cantidad en el momento que nacemos y que morimos. Por eso algunos teorizan de que es como que es un portal para que la conciencia entre como al cuerpo físico cuando naces y que sale cuando te morís y pasas como a otro plano, ¿no?
For everybody. That was the thought. It took me years to figure it out, and we can talk about the details of how I figured it out at the end. But this one component, which essentially is what I discovered, if you project a diffracted laser on the surface, which just means
Yo nunca lo hice, nunca me animé. Nunca fue más que faso yo, guachín. Soy muy cagón.
it's a band of a laser, just like the thing that scans barcodes in a supermarket, and you smoke DMT, you will see code running in the surface that you're projecting the laser on. And this basically is the same for every single person. They see, in the beginning, they kind of see similar, like they see some structures, they see some movement, they see something kind of like there, but then eventually they drop into the space where they just see the same thing. And we can sit in a room, I had 15 people in a room at the same time, talking about it, pointing to it. You can literally talk about it like you talk about a regular object in a room. This is how coherent it is. That's the gist of what I found.
And how many people have you shown this to that have seen it?
Me personally, hundreds of people. I know of, I keep saying at least over 1,000 that I just want it to be, as concrete as possible. So I counted like how many people reached out and told me this is how many people I showed, this is how many people saw it.
Yeah.
So I calculated all of that. It was, at that point, it was like 980 people.
Right.
So this was 5 months ago, so I'm pretty sure there's like, at this point, it's kind of like this little subcultural thing, and people just, there's communities that are forming around it, people kind of talk about it, all that stuff. Yeah, so.
Ahora, para resumir hasta ahora lo que dijo, el chabón lo que dice es que él proyecta un láser sobre una pared, sobre lo que sea, y que la gente, bajo los efectos de DMT, que se pueden juntar todo y qué sé yo, después de un rato pueden empezar a ver a través de ese láser que corre un código sobre la pared, como si pudieran ver algo por atrás que sucede, y que todos ven lo mismo, y bueno, ahora va a mostrar algo más, ¿no? Pero hasta ahora lo que dice es eso, y que como ahora se generó algo como medio subcultural de gente que ha fumado eso y que ha tratado de hacer el experimento, que también lo ha percibido.
I think this would be a good point. Maybe we should show the trailer.
Sure.
Let's show that to people. Steve, can you pull it up? It's called The Discovery, right? Just type in The Discovery DMT on YouTube. You'll find it.
All right, let's see what we got here.
All right, full screen that bad boy.
By the way, I want to mention that, pause for a second, I'm sorry. I just want to mention that the director of this trailer and the film we're working on is Aaron Vanden. He truly is incredible. He came up with this thing in less than a week. It's just unbelievable. I think where credit is due, and it's very important to mention.
Shout out to Aaron.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
I remember things very vividly from a very young age. When I was a little kid, I actually spent a lot of time with my grandparents. My grandfather was a nuclear physicist. I remember he was telling me about black holes. And that terrified me.
I was like, that's just mind-boggling. It's a monster, right?
But at the same time, it fascinated me. And I said to myself, how do we know that? This unthinkably massive thing. I realized that nature doesn't keep secrets. It's only a matter of, do we understand? What tools can we use to expand our knowledge? And for me, dimethyltryptamine, also known as DMT, was the tool that led me to the discovery.
When I first saw the phenomenon, it was like, holy shit!
But then it was actually like, whoa, what is happening?
Am I losing my mind? But then I showed other people, and things kept getting weirder.
Just for the record, I haven't told him anything. Okay, just tell me what you see.
Oh my god, come on.
Wow, what the fuck? Holy shit. I just saw something. Yeah. What the fuck?
Oh, I see that. I feel it.
I've been under the influence of mind-altering substances a lot, but I've never seen anything like that. Whoa.
I showed over 100 people, and I kept asking myself, how are all of us seeing the same thing?
Oh my god. It changing shapes right there.
The laser was revealing numbers and letters running in a pattern.
They're almost like this big here, and it looks like code.
It looked like...
That was a thick laser.
That's why I told you. Yeah.
Something, and I just want to take a picture of it and translate it.
Wow.
You see that?
Okay, so yeah, it's not stuck.
No.
It's not because of the light.
No, it's on its own side. Light is just literally revealing it.
And each angle shows you different layers, different ways through it.
I could see through the wall. It's not like a hallucination. It has spatial awareness and permanence.
I don't know. Whoa.
For centuries, mankind has attempted to explore these psychedelic, altered states, but we've never had a repeatable, testable phenomenon to observe until now.
Wow. I'm obsessed. It's like you can see through the laser into another dimension.
I mean, like, take yourself to that. Like,
DMT, Agus. Este chabón dice que descubrió una manera de ver código en la realidad a través de estos láser y, no sé, digamos, drogado con DMT.
I just made a connection that nobody made before, which is a simple connection. The claim is, if you project a diffracted laser on a certain...
María Invisible, ahí que estaba contando un poco su experiencia, dice que él también vio códigos tipo estructura con símbolos en el cuerpo de un amigo.
Surface, and you smoke DMT, you will see code running in surfaces. Yes, like in the Matrix.
So there are a few possibilities. One,
I lost my mind, which is the coolest losing your mind ever in history.
The second option is that
this is the biggest discovery of humankind. If anybody ever asked themselves what it would be like to know you live in the Matrix for sure, well, I know for sure. I'm convinced.
So where do we go from here? All I know is
it's about to get crazy.
So what gave you the idea to throw this, first of all, create this diffracted laser and shine it on the wall while you were on DMT?
Well, that's what the movie is going to be depicting, basically. A lot of it is what are the moves that I had to take to kind of figure it out. It took years. Basically, so the question of whether the space is real is not the first time that anybody's asking this question. As you, of course, know, because you had people on the podcast like Gallimore that are literally involved directly with these investigations on a scale of like actually putting it in a lab and, you know.
Right.
So that question is already out there. I actually wasn't aware that more serious people are asking this question when I asked myself that question. I just had a set of experiences that were so real. So like everything you experienced yesterday, I've had it for years, right?
Yeah.
Then I had a set of experiences that was one level above that, if you can imagine that, which is it just became like my regular space. So I came back from...
Después el chabón sigue, la entrevista dura 2 horas si la quieren ver, pero vamos a ir directamente. Vamos a ver de vuelta el tráiler. No, pero lo acabamos de ver, el tráiler es lo mismo, pero para los que recién vinieron vamos a ver de vuelta el tráiler y después vamos a pasar a... tienen como un tutorial de cómo hacerlo y después vamos a ver los primeros videos que el chabón cuenta toda la experiencia, ¿no?
I remember things very vividly from a very young age.
Mira, Bart.
When I was a little kid, I actually spent a lot of time with my grandparents. My grandfather was a nuclear physicist. I remember he was telling me about black holes. And that terrified me.
I was like, that's just mind-boggling. It's a monster, right?
But at the same time, it fascinated me. And I said to myself, how do we know that? This unthinkably massive thing. I realized that nature doesn't keep secrets. It's only a matter of, do we understand? What tools can we use to expand our knowledge? And for me, dimethyltryptamine, also known as DMT, was the tool that led me to the discovery.
When I first saw the phenomenon, I was like, holy shit!
But then it was actually like, whoa.
Hay algo raro siempre con la... A mí lo único que me pasa cuando fumo y me voy a dormir, por ejemplo, y cierro los ojos sin apretarme los ojos y nada, en algún momento se empiezo a tener flashes y veo patrones como de... No de geometrías, a mí me parece más como simbología y jeroglíficos de tipo egipcia. Es muy loco.
Whoa. What is happening?
Am I losing my mind? But then I showed other people, and things kept getting weirder.
Just for the record, I haven't told him anything. Okay, just tell me what you see.
Oh my god, come on.
Wow, what the fuck? Holy shit. I just saw something. Yeah. What the fuck?
Oh, I see that. I feel it.
I've been under the influence of mind-altering substances a lot, but I've never seen anything like that. Whoa.
I showed over 100 people, and I kept asking myself, how are all of us seeing the same thing?
Oh my god. It's changing shapes right there.
The laser was revealing numbers and letters running in a pattern.
They're almost like this big here, and it looks like code.
It looked like programming code.
It's definitely saying something, and I just want to take a picture of it and translate it. Wow. You see that?
Okay, so yeah, it's not stuck.
No.
It's not because of the light.
No, it's on its own side. Light is just literally revealing it.
And each angle shows you different layers, different ways through it.
Igual, guachines, para todos los escépticos, yo no les traigo estas cosas para que lo crean, para lo que sea, pero es interesante. A mí lo que me fascina, digamos, de esto del DMT, es lo que le decía al principio del programa, para los que vengan llegando, es una molécula que se genera en nuestro cuerpo y que se produce en grandes cantidades, según los científicos, cuando nacemos y cuando nos morimos, y que también se sintetizó y se usa, digamos, para fumar, y la gente que lo ha experimentado es como si viajara a otra dimensión y se encuentra con seres y demás cosas, y algunos se encuentran hasta con los mismos seres. Muchos científicos lo están estudiando en universidades en Estados Unidos, en donde prueban con pacientes y van documentando lo que sucede y están tratando de dilucidar en la teoría y en base a experimentos si es que están accediendo a otro plano de la realidad, si es todo una construcción cerebral, ¿no? Y entonces mientras el chabón está en ese viaje lo ponen con un montón de cosas en la cabeza, hacen estudios y demás. Y es interesante, yo no sé, tal vez acá muchos son como muy con los pies en la tierra, pero a mí todo lo que tiene que ver con la conciencia y todo lo que tiene que ver con estas cosas que te alteran la conciencia, los niveles de conciencia o lo que sea, me parecen muy interesantes. Ya solamente el hecho de tener sueños, por más que te digan, no, bueno, son cosas residuales que el cerebro y no sé qué, los psicólogos o el psicoanálisis te dicen que en realidad son manifestaciones del inconsciente y de cosas, digamos, que tenés que resolver, pero se generan de una manera como más entre onírica, literal y lo que sea. Entonces, a mí me parece como muy llamativo. A mí lo único que he hecho es fumar un facín y las primeras cosas que me llamó mucho la atención era como de golpe, no sé, percibía ciertas cosas como con el tacto, el gusto o ciertas cosas que te alteraban la percepción y te hacían como sentir las cosas a otro nivel. Entonces, de ese momento dije, qué loco, y qué loco como los sentidos todo el tiempo están filtrando un montón de información, porque si no tu cerebro se volvería loco. A ver, si vos estás todo el tiempo, no sé, si pudieras escuchar todo el día el espectro auditivo, podrías ver todo el espectro visual, lo que yo no podrías ver, te volvés loco. Entonces tiene que filtrar un montón de cosas el cerebro para manifestarte la realidad que conocemos. Pero a mí me parece como súper interesante. Esto puede ser una payasada, después veremos el documental y veremos qué onda, pero es interesante ver cómo el chabón está mezclando algo que tiene como toda esa cosa medio esotérica también, con algo que puede experimentar cualquiera que fume esta cosa, puede hacer la prueba y ver qué ve. Conejo Blanco dice que practica visión remota, eso es muy loco. Lo estudió la CIA, boludo, hay un montón de archivos desclasificados.
Through the wall, it's not like a hallucination. It has spatial awareness and permanence. I don't know. Whoa.
For centuries, mankind has attempted to explore these psychedelic, altered states, but we've never had a repeatable, testable phenomenon to observe until now.
Wow. I'm obsessed.
It's like you can see through the laser into another dimension.
I mean, like, take yourself to that. Like, I just made a connection that nobody...
Para los que no sepan qué es la visión remota, la CIA, no sé si en los 70 o en los 80 o antes, tenía, no sé cómo llegó a investigarlo, pero con algunas personas que decían que podían llegar a ponerse en un estado de trance, que con la conciencia podían observar lugares que estaban a miles de kilómetros o lo que sea. Y la CIA lo usaba como para espiar a Rusia. Y obviamente que hacían pruebas tratando de probar. Entonces le ponían pruebas al chabón, no sé. Tenían un lugar, un galpón en algún lado con un tractor adentro y qué sé yo, que yo sabía que estaban ahí, y al chabón le dan las coordenadas. Y el chabón con esas coordenadas te decía lo que veía. Ve un galpón con un tractor adentro de tal color y qué sé yo. Y sí, la CIA experimentó con millones de bizarrerías. La CIA experimentó con un proyecto que se llama MK Ultra, en donde tenían, digamos, prostíbulos, en donde tenían las habitaciones espejos dobles y les pagaban las prostitutas para que les pongan LCD a los clientes y ver qué pasaba. Después empezaron a utilizarlo como para hacer trabajos de control mental, como de lavado de cabeza. Muy, muy loco. Nahuel Ponce León dice: Pela, me pasó como 4 veces tener desprendimiento corporal y me vi a mí mismo acostado en mi cama. Lo primero me re asusté, ahora hace rato no me pasa, sin drogas ni nada de eso. Eso es muy loco, guachín.
Made before, which is a simple connection. The claim is, if you project a diffracted laser on the surface,
es que no podés documentarlo, porque es algo que tenés que tomar y hacer el experimento para poder verlo vos mismo. Entonces documentan distintas personas que están viendo lo mismo.
And you smoke DMT, you will see code running in surfaces. Yes, like in the Matrix.
So there are a few possibilities. One,
I lost my mind, which is the coolest losing your mind ever in history.
the second option is that
this is the biggest discovery of humankind. If anybody ever asked themselves what it would be like to know you live in the Matrix for sure, well, I know for sure. I'm convinced.
Bueno, ahí tenemos como lo que era el tráiler. Acá tenemos como... Es como... ¿no? Como este tutorial, a ver. Vamos a ponerlo.
One of the most important things to pay attention to is that you're looking through the laser, not at the diffraction pattern that falls on the wall. So even if you're sitting 2 or 3 feet away, like we're seeing here, you want to be looking at beyond the light, like you're looking through the window versus looking at the surface of the window. Also notice how wide the diffracted pattern of the laser is on the wall. People that choose lasers that are produce this thing that just looks like one line, that's not wide enough for you to see anything because you're looking beyond the laser, not at the surface. So it will be too thin, too narrow of a crack to look through, so to speak. You can come closer like this, and I would recommend to cover one eye so the light doesn't hit your cornea. And then you would be looking from the side. From the side is better because you get a separation of the layers inside. You want to stay on this task for a little bit until you start seeing structures emerge. If you still don't see anything, you can actually come to the side of the wall, like so, and try and look at the edge of where the light becomes visible from the side. This weirdly makes it even more coherent. One extra emphasis I would give is that you want to stay with it until you start seeing digits. The separation between just seeing the structures and seeing the digits is total. When you still see the structures, it's possible to imagine that these structures are due to the influence of DMT in your brain while you're looking at a stochastic pattern. But when you see the digits, this hypothesis becomes much less tenable. You will notice some motion. Stay with that motion. The digits are usually much smaller than people expect. So keep looking until you see actual digits running. Numerals and what seems like Japanese katakana characters. If you're using a glass of water like here, what you can do, you can either look into the glass of water, into the little reflections that you can see inside the glass. And then what you want to do is to mimic the gesture that we do when we go a little bit cross-eyed, which you will notice is the same gesture that your eyes are doing when you're trying to look beyond something. It's also very similar to what we have to do when we're trying to look at a magic eye image. To anybody who's not familiar, the magic eye is a visual illusion that we put on a two-dimensional paper, and when you do a certain thing with your attention, you can all of a sudden see a three-dimensional image in there. But it's embedded in there. It's designed to do that. And the gesture you do with your eyes, if you're familiar with magic eye, is very similar to what we're trying to do here. So either we're looking at the glass directly and we're trying to expand those little reflective patterns. You will see some glistening portions inside the glass, and what you want to do is to expand them by doing the magic eye gestures with your eyes. And you will see the code running inside very coherently. Another option is to look at the light that hits the wall after it's been additionally refracted through the glass of water. So now we have a diffraction and a refraction pattern all together. You want to be looking at the area after it passed the water, which is different than the light that hits the wall directly. Something about the refractive index of water that makes what we see in the laser even more coherent. It's not clear what yet, we're working on that, but that's the case and it can help people who are having a hard time seeing it.
Mira cómo es el tutorial. Después hizo como este disclaimer para, ¿no? Como safety measures.
This video is a direct response to all the people that wanted to try the laser DMT.
Vamos a ponerlo para los loquitos que lo prueben.
This video is a direct response to all the people that wanted to try the laser DMT experiment. Hello everyone. To anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, I posted a video recently. Go to my page. It's the video about me talking that I discovered that when you smoke DMT and you project a laser on a wall, you can see code running in the wall. I felt moral obligation to record this quick safety protocol tutorial. Obviously I'm going to be releasing something much more robust later, but hopefully this will do for now. I think 3 main things. The first one is, I think it should go without saying, but do not look at the laser. you're obviously looking at a projection of the laser, if that wasn't clear, and you want to make sure that, you're not looking at the laser. The second thing is, do not use any laser that is above 5 milliwatts. I looked through all of the market, like Amazon, everywhere. All of them are above 5 milliwatts, aside from the one that I left the link for in the original video on YouTube in the description. If you find another one that's 5 milliwatts, please, by all means, use it. I'm not associated with the seller, but do not use anything above 5 milliwatts because you might need to spend some time with it, which will mean that, you're spending time with it. You don't want to do any retina damage. That's not good for the obvious reasons. And the last thing is your state. DMT is not a joke. The experience can be very confounding and even scary at times. I would say that for now, unless you're a seasoned experiencer with DMT, don't try this. But if you really want to, please contact me. I answer all my emails. It's lasersimulationx@gmail.com. I'm going to leave the link in the description. And soon I'm also going to be doing some Zoom meetings in which I'm going to do a protocol breakthrough, safety protocols, and also some new things that were discovered. For example, with a glass of water, you can project it through a glass of water and it's more coherent for some reason, both on the wall, bouncing off the water, refracting off the water, and in the little reflections in the water. But yeah, no more than 5 milliwatts. Make sure your state is good and make sure you talk to me before, because that's very important. And don't stare at the laser. I hope that's good enough.
Bueno, una boludez. Y ahora vamos a ver un poco los primeros videos donde tiró este descubrimiento, digamos, ¿no?
Hello everyone. I'm about to claim that I have proof that we live in a simulation. Now, I know it's a lot to live up to, so either I just shot myself in the foot, or I have something that is truly enormous and profound for you. But first, let me unpack what's the biggest impediment to what I'm trying to communicate. It's not in the merit what I'm trying to say. No, what I found is real. It's that the way that we can observe it is outside of the domain of what science deems to be credible. How do we deem what's real? How do we decide what in fact is real? I would claim that this question is very complicated. The way we decide what's real nowadays is through the scientific method, and it's a really good method. The scientific method essentially states that if you can observe something over and over and over again, and you can reproduce the results, and you can ask the right questions, and you can theorize the right things about the process, and you will get something fundamentally true. The problem with that is that we're looking at it through the senses, the way that we perceive them. What if I would tell you that in order to see a portion of reality that we so far have not been seeing, the only way to do that is to be in an altered state? Now, this is not a new statement all by itself. People have claimed this many times, that when they do certain substances, or they go into a trance, or they go to some certain meditation experiences, they seem to see another portion of the world that we don't usually see. Now, that's a deal breaker for science right there, because they deem those states incoherent. I mean, obviously by definition, you're confused about what in fact is going on. Well, I beg to differ, and I'll tell you why I disagree. I'm not saying that the scientific method is wrong. It absolutely is the most valuable thing we have. But it's time for us to venture into new territories of observations in order to discover what in fact is there. Obviously, we don't see the majority of the electromagnetic spectrum. We only see what is the tiny sliver of the visible light. And we know that other things out there, but we know that because we built instruments that can sense this part of the electromagnetic field, and we built other instruments to interact with other fields that tell us that they're there. We also build models or theories that allow us to probe into the more speculative nature of the bigger pictures in the universe. And those models are taken more seriously simply because they rest on very heavy mathematics that seem to match with other predictions that we can measure. All of that is a super valuable and a super valid way to look at the world. In fact, there is no better way of coming at a problem as far as we know today. But here's why I'm making my suggestion. I'm about to claim to you that I found a way to stabilize a signal from those altered states that allow you to see something that is as real as a table, as a chair, as anything that you want to define as real in this three-dimensional space. How do I know that? Well, that's a tricky question. But the short answer is, I know that using the same criteria of determining what is real that I use every single day. This is where the new kind of observation idea comes in. Because by seeing this, I realized that certain things hold a quality that we don't know how to talk about it, because everything in our physical world is just defined as the physical world, and therefore we don't think of it in any special terms. The fact that things don't just disappear, the fact that they're always there no matter when you look at them, unless you move them, of course. And there's a certain other quality that we don't usually think about, but there's a certain rigidity. It's almost like insistence of the object to be itself. It's a very, very elusive quality that I don't think we have a word for, and I honestly didn't come up with a good word for it yet, but I think the best way I found to describe it is that it's epistemologically sound, which I know it sounds loaded, but essentially all it means is that it has this quality of realness. It's very clearly there, or at least the way that your brain is simulating it is not the same as you being bamboozled by, let's say, darkness or shadows. It's not the same as walking in the middle of the night and looking at a tree and not being sure if the tree is a person or not. Even when you're having that experience at night and you're not sure if it's a person or a tree, it's clear to you that you don't quite know. It's clear to you that you're in a confused state. What I'm claiming to have found, it is like a chair sitting in front of you. It's very coherent. It's right there. It is not the same as the experiences that people report, even though they feel real. Those spaces are very big and they're shifting constantly. They have a lot of colors and they have a lot of light. People are confused by the space, but it feels real. But you can't take it home with you. You can't say anything outside of like, hey, I had this experience and it felt real. For the most part, I fully agree. If all you can come up with are these esoteric stories that you have in altered states, no matter how many of those stories will compile together, it will never amount to true proof of anything. And we're not going to have any way to talk about these things objectively until maybe we have some more advanced tools like Neuralink, linking our brains or projecting our thoughts onto a screen, which will make it more feasible to think about ways in which we can agree on what is actually being observed. But what if I tell you that without any Neuralink, you can actually produce the same observation over and over and over again, the same exact one. In fact, no matter how many people stand in the room at the same time, they would see exactly the same thing. So here's the secret. You ready for this? I want to be clear, I'm not condoning anyone doing drugs, but it just happens to be the case that if you smoke dimethyltryptamine, DMT, and then you project a 650 nanometer refracted laser, I will show you exactly what it means at the end of the video. Of course, be very careful because you are in an altered state, and you project it on a wall or on a door. If you do that and you look into the laser, you will see something very interesting. Inside, not in the light itself, but behind the light, you will see patterns, but more than that, you would see numbers running. Now, the thing here is that it's not like because you're in a psychedelic state, you see all those patterns moving around and any random pattern will transform into random things, which psychedelics absolutely do. You will see something very coherent. And if you move the laser, you will notice that it's not moving with the laser. The laser, in fact, is moving across a sea of information. It's like it's shining through. It's showing us what's behind. If you look inside, you will notice that it's a different frame of reference. It's on a different plane. So if this is the end of the door, the laser is shining right here, whatever is inside is not moving when you move the beam of the laser. It has real coordinates in space. It's very clear. You can identify the motion, you can identify the qualities, and you can talk about it in just as real terms as you can talk about a table or a chair in the room. Now, I showed this to many people at this point, and this is how I have the confidence to say that this is actually there. What is the actual nature of this? I have some strong speculations, and also I've gathered some extra information that tells me a little bit more about what I think it is, but I can't pretend like I fully understand. I'm putting it out for the world because I've approached a few researchers with this. Some got interested, but for the most part, I feel like it falls on flat ears. Now, it's completely understandable because, I mean, at the end of the day, think about the claim. The claim is crazy, and I would probably react the same. In fact, I would never entertain something like this as true unless I would myself see it. But also it might be because the lack of clout. I mean, simply, I'm not a an official scientist anywhere, so I don't really have credentials running in front of me. Why would anybody take my emails seriously? Completely understand that. I understand that this is a big claim, and it will require way more than, a few dozen people seeing it. But this is why a bigger research is required, and I think it's important that we understand this thing quicker because it points to something in reality that is actually there, actually real, and there's no better place than the internet to just put it out to the world. Now, I understand the problematic nature of a video of this sort. I understand that essentially, if and when this video is going to get some traction and people are going to try it and see that it works and are going to comment and it's going to, grow in popularity, eventually we'll get to the attention of some serious scientists. And the main problem there would be like, well, guess what? Confirmational bias. Now you've implanted this meme, this idea into the world that this weird code running behind a laser when you're on some psychedelic drug, and now we can't study it because now everybody knows about it and they would expect to see it there, and therefore we can say that our brain manifests it. I understand, but my contention is that when people will see it, they will understand what I mean by it's very clear that it's not produced by your brain. So I'm going to take the chance with this. I'm just going to run with it, and hopefully we can have a real, honest, adult conversation about what it is. I'm not claiming to have some kind of big answers about the larger structure. I have some firm contenders for what it might be, but I'm not claiming to understand fully, and that's also why I'm putting it out there, because I want people to all investigate, all look, and then put in their 5 cents about what they think this is, and we can all come together and start having a real conversation, because something very big is going on here. The larger claim is that, well, either we actually live in a simulation, and that's what this is the source code that is running the place, or we get to peer into this parallel dimension that has this code running in it. Whatever it is, it's there. It's 100% there. And I think it's time for science to start loosening up a little bit their ways and methods of doing things and experimenting with new ways of trying to understand the world. Because if there is an entire sliver of reality that we simply can't see because of how we're constructed, there's certain bandwidths that we can't actually absorb, then no matter what instruments you're going to build, you're not going to see them, even with those instruments. Now, what if at the moment, the only instrument to see this thing is to alter our brain, and then using this laser helps us to actually, just like a telescope looks at light that comes from very far away, this laser somehow, the refraction itself allows us to peer into that space. Somehow the information carried from that space is sifting through into our space through that wavelength. But in addition to that, we might need to be in a different state to actually be able to see it. Now, that's something that at the moment science doesn't even come close to entertain, that notion or that idea, but I think it should. I believe that this is the beginning of the biggest discovery of humankind. Given it's very possible, and even much more plausible than not, that this video is going to be ignored for a very long time. I'm going to keep trying to talk to researchers and individuals and explain what I found. And I think it's up to all of us to make that discovery together, because it's way too big for one individual to handle. Either it says something about our brain. My contention is that it's not in our brain. It is real. And it's also why, specifically with DMT, it feels so real, because we go to a real place. The difference between any other claim that was put on the table on this subject before and what I'm saying is that this is the first time we have a tool that potentially can help us talk about this thing in objective terms. I want to be very clear. Every time I tell it to somebody and I tell them, hey, I think we either live in a simulation or this is a parallel dimension, and their response is, well, yeah, I immediately know that we're not on the same wavelength. Because if it's obvious to you, then there's something off about your reasoning. This should not be obvious to you. That's not an obvious thing. That's not anywhere proven. This is not something that we know about for sure. This is a lot of speculation that a lot of people come up with, that I personally heard many times and have experienced this place. But I couldn't say with any amount of certainty that this is anything outside of something really interesting about my brain. This is the first time that we can look at something together and agree that it's there. And again, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So because of the size of the claim, this doesn't amount to anything that meets the criteria of what extraordinary evidence would be. But this is a very good place to start. This is a real conversation we should start having. This is why I'm putting this video out there, because I think we need to have this conversation. It's maybe also important to say how I reached this conclusion. A few years ago, I've had some of those ultra realistic experiences with DMT. A lot of people have different kinds of experiences on dimethyltryptamine, and some report those like ultra realistic, like very real encounters with beings. Things look like it's a real space. So this is very common. But then I asked myself, okay, wait a second, if this is a real space, there must be some answers here. There must be some way of determining whether it is a real space or it's not a real space. So therefore I decided that there must be some part of it that if the space is real, we should be able to all see it somehow. We should be able to stabilize part of the signal in a way that we can all agree on. And it took me years of thinking about it, and then something very interesting happened. And this is the part where, I'm gonna sound crazy to you, like 100%. There's no way around that. If you can sit through this part, then we're good, but I'm gonna sound bonkers. I started getting hints from somebody, like, this whole like numerology thing, which I'm really not big on. For example, I was walking on the street in the middle of the night and I was thinking about this, and then I looked down and I saw, those water and power marked numbers on the floor. At the same time, I was also working on an edit. I'm an editor. I was having a hard time with this one scene where the color just wouldn't match. So I looked at it, and at the same time while I was thinking about this subject, I saw this number on the floor and I was like, oh, wouldn't it be like cool if this would be like match some kind of LUT number that will help me fix the color problem. So I took a picture of that, and then when I got back home, I just put that number in Spotlight on a Mac, not even in a Google search. And what came up was astonishing. The number, the only thing that it matched it with, because it also searches through the web, was a number of a paper that was put out by CERN about the discovery of the Higgs boson particle, about some specific decay of a particle. And what I was thinking when I saw this number was the possibility that light might be able to carry some of that information in the fringes of the halo that it creates. It matched so well what I was thinking about and the paper from CERN. I mean, think about this. The number matches one paper, and one paper only, with that number in the entire internet. That's what it found. Pause on that for a second. That was more than just like some kind of random coincidence of like I saw the number 111 somewhere, right? So I kind of started going down that rabbit hole, and I started uncovering more and more clues like that happened at the right place at the right time. And eventually I arrived at this conclusion that somehow, I don't know, remember the exact trajectory of that rabbit hole, but I arrived at the conclusion that 650 nanometer laser is what you want. And then I think another piece of information came in that told me, well, you also have to refract it. So something about the refraction itself that actually allows you to see that. I haven't gotten to the bottom of why it works, but it does. I happen to have some more information about this that is less solid as this, just simply because I can't prove it to you, because it rests more on my account of what, in fact, now the experience that I'm going through when I'm smoking, it's something shifted, by the way. So after I built it, my experience is very different, and I will not say different in what way at the moment, because this will make anybody who listens to this just disregard my video, because I'm going to sound completely crazy. And if and when we're going to start having the larger conversation about this, then I can deliver more details. But for now, there you have it. Now you know. Now I'm going to show you what the laser looks like, and I'm going to show you how you can build one. So this is the first prototype that I built. This is Mambo. His name is Mambo number 5. This is very, very, looks very complicated, but it really isn't. All it is one of these little lasers. Okay, so let me show you. This is a newer version of this. It's a little bit more compact. So you see the battery pack is right here. I just basically put it on a tripod so I can put it anywhere in the room. And these specific lasers that I'm going to leave the link in the description to make it clear, I'm not making any money from not these lasers, from not anything. There's just a link to Amazon or some store in Alibaba. You can buy it. I'm not selling this. But these lasers are particularly good because they never short. They're relatively, the pace with which they exert energy is actually very, very steady. And they're not as strong, so there's less risk of doing something to a cornea, which is good because you're in an altered state. And then basically when you turn it on, I want to aim it at the camera, but you see it on my hand here. So right there, as you can see, it's an X. As you can see, it's an X. And you put it on a wall or anything really on a door. And I'll also leave the link in the description for how to build the circuit for it. Of course, you.
Yo sé que suena re bizarro, ¿no? Por eso lo estamos viendo. Y que es como que tranquilamente es la locura, ¿no? De la mezcla de Keanu Reeves y Messi. Pero es interesante que haya, digamos, desarrollado este experimento bizarro y que la gente que está, digamos, fumada con eso puedan ver ese patrón y demás. O sea, es interesante. Todo lo que para mí sucede dentro de ese estado de DMT es interesante para estudiar. Y es muy loco, boludo, que el chabón este haya fumado tanto eso y se haya obsesionado tanto y que haya llegado a esto. ¿Cuál es el sentido, no? Digamos, pero vos fijate la obsesión del guachín, hasta dónde llegó. ¿Qué significa si es así? Si no se fumás eso y ves eso, ¿qué significa? No sé. ¿Por qué el chabón cree que está viendo, digamos, el código de la Matrix y no algo más, ¿no? De ese estado que estás viendo patrones y cosas y que de alguna manera tu cerebro, digamos, ¿no? De alguna manera lo pone como en algo que puedes entender, qué sé yo, como en algún tipo de código. Pero vos fíjate la obsesión del chabón hasta dónde llegó.
You can use any laser, as long as it's refracted, it doesn't really matter. This one just comes with the refractor already inside, so all you got to do is build the simplest circuit. And this is essentially just like the official original model that I built, because I also added a microscope lens here, which kind of amplifies it a little bit and it helps you see, but it's not necessary. Also, it kind of looks, you know, kind of weird like that. It's because I thought I'm going to put extra lenses to play with, but I ended up not doing that for a while. This one is just a little more, as you can see. So, same idea. But essentially, that's all you need. And if you happen to be ingesting DMT, then you'll see what I'm talking about. The only thing I would add as a caveat is that you do want to try a few times. There's a substantial amount of people that I noticed that it takes them a little, like sometimes it takes them like some sit with it, like they have to. Takes them a second to see it, but when you see it, you can't unsee it. That's from that point on, you see exactly what it is and you know what to look for. You don't have to be on copious amounts of DMT either. You don't need a lot to see this. You can be right on the surface. I would say that in the beginning, before you saw it for the first time, you would need a little bit more because it amplifies it. It's more visible, easier, so it's easy to find. After you find it, you don't need that much to actually you kind of ride it out. That's also why it's better to do it with a vape. Of course, you can do it in any other way, but it just becomes very convoluted when you're trying to sit in front of a door and staring at a laser and, you know, having like a bong or something. It's just very convoluted. You can have your own experience. You can, you know, lunch.
Este no dice mucho más. Y a ver en este otro video que decía. Ah, pero quiero ver los comentarios de ese video. Creo que es este, ¿no? De hace 2 años.
Whatever.
Ah. No dice nada interesante. Y a ver en este si decía algo más. Bueno, vamos a ver un poquito en qué dice en este video.
Only 2 individuals who actually replicated from the people who were exposed to the video online, and obviously that's a tiny number, but that just made me realize that I have to do more in helping people to actually come on board and try this versus just kind of putting the word out. So I've released a video that shows how I made my laser, but also I will engage with people more directly so I can help guide people through this process. There's this weird element that I'm not quite sure how to address, and I wish I would have a simpler answer, but it's something to figure out. Different people takes different amount of time to actually see the digits. Some people just see it right away. Some people it takes them 5 minutes. The longest I've had sitting with me was about 2 hours. But in the end, everybody sees it. I have no idea why that is the case. As more information comes in, I'll obviously update on that as well. So what I'm encouraging people to do if they're trying this is stay with it. You will see it. And if you don't, I would love to hear about it. Please contact me so we can look at the details. Another thing that a lot of people addressed was a concern about the fact that if I'm putting this information out there, I'm basically destroying the evidence. There's a lot of people in the world. Right now, there are a lot of people who are claiming to see similar things in the DMT space. That means that every person who speaks on the subject is destroying evidence? No, we're comparing notes. I want to remind everybody that everything that we do, for example in neuroscience, is by comparing what we see as a pattern, in this case, let's say something that we see on functional MRI or EEG, and what people report to experience or types of behavior that people exhibit when we measure those things. That means that everything that we discover, let's say in neuroscience, rests entirely on what a group of people reports when we see those patterns in the brain. Of course, we don't take one account, but we take many, and then we run the statistics. We measure, and then we try and compare, and we're trying to see what are the similarities, where it converges, and that's how we make progress. I think not looking at the specifics creates a distorted picture of what in fact priming is in psychology, or planting an idea. In psychology, there's something called priming, which is I'm planting related ideas in your head in order for you to produce a certain thought more often than not. Common example is if you mention to people things that have to do with the ocean, and then you ask them what kind of detergent responds to the old thinking of everything is known by God, to replace a different, not to assumption. It's editing, Danny. So as I'm editing this video, I'm starting to realize that a lot of the points that I made are not fully made. And some...
Bueno, vamos a llegar hasta acá, guachines, porque ya no dice mucho más. Me pareció interesante para traerlo en esta noche el Pela, con el loquito este y con esta bizarreada, ¿no? Que me sigue pareciendo interesante todo lo que tiene que ver con lo del DMT. Acá tienen la entrevista entera, si la llegan a querer ver, en el canal este de Danny Jones. New DMT Experiment Finds Alien Code Hidden in the Fabric of Reality, se llama Danny Goller. Así que bueno, guachines, vayan a ver lo que quieran. Terminamos por hoy, nos vemos mañana a la mañana. Chao, Richis, abrazo para todos.